Sarah Martinez had dreamed of joining the Navy since she was 12 years old. Growing up in a small town in Texas, she watched her older brother return from deployment with stories of brotherhood, honor, and serving something greater than himself. When she turned 18, Sarah knew exactly where her future lay. The recruitment office in downtown San Antonio buzzed with activity that Tuesday morning when Sarah walked through the glass doors. Petty Officer Johnson, a seasoned recruiter with 20 years of service, looked up from his paperwork as the young woman approached his desk. Sarah's determination was evident in her steady gaze and confident posture. "I want to serve my country," Sarah announced without hesitation. "I want to join the Navy." Petty Officer Johnson had seen hundreds of eager young people walk through those doors, but something about Sarah's conviction impressed him. After completing the initial paperwork and scheduling her ASVAB test, he explained the various career paths available to her. Sarah listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about different specializations and deployment schedules. 3 months later, Sarah found herself standing on the yellow footprints at Naval Station Great Lakes in Illinois. The famous footprints marked the beginning of every sailor's journey through boot camp. As she looked around at the other recruits, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness coursing through her veins. The first few days of boot camp passed in a blur of medical examinations, uniform fittings, and administrative processing. Sarah received her standard-issue clothing, including the Navy working uniform that would become her daily attire during training. The light blue shirt and navy blue pants represented more than just clothing to her. They symbolized her commitment to serving her country. Recruit Division 234 consisted of 80 women from diverse backgrounds across America. There was Jessica from California, who had been a college athlete, Maria from New York, whose father was a retired Marine, and Ashley from Georgia, who had worked as a mechanic before enlisting. Despite their different origins, they all shared the common goal of earning their Navy uniforms. Chief Petty Officer Williams served as their company commander, a tough but fair leader who had been molding recruits for over 15 years. On the first day of actual training, she gathered the division in the compartment for orientation. "Ladies, the next 8 weeks will challenge everything you think you know about yourselves." Chief Williams began, her voice carrying the authority of years of experience. "Some of you will discover strength you never knew you had. Others will find that this life isn't for them. Both outcomes are acceptable, but giving less than your best effort is not." The physical training began immediately. Every morning started with reveille at 0530 hours, followed by personal hygiene time and preparation for the day ahead. The recruits learned to make their racks with military precision, ensuring that blankets were pulled tight enough to bounce a quarter. Attention to detail became paramount in every aspect of their daily routine. Sarah embraced the rigorous schedule wholeheartedly. During physical fitness sessions, she pushed herself to exceed the minimum requirements. The initial fitness assessment revealed that she needed improvement in her push-ups and sit-ups, but her 1.5-mile run time was already well within acceptable standards. "Martinez, you've got natural endurance," commented Petty Officer Davis, one of the fitness instructors, after Sarah completed her third consecutive sub-13-minute run. "Keep working on your upper body strength, and you'll be in excellent shape by graduation." The academic portion of boot camp proved equally challenging. Sarah studied naval history, learning about famous battles and the traditions that shaped the modern Navy. She memorized the 11 general orders that every sailor must know by heart and studied the chain of command structure that would govern her military career. During seamanship training, Sarah discovered an aptitude for knot tying and basic navigation principles. The instructors taught the recruits how to tie various knots, including the bowline clove hitch and figure-8 knot. Sarah's hands moved deftly as she practiced the movements repeatedly, earning praise from Petty Officer Martinez, the seamanship instructor. "Attention to detail and muscle memory," Petty Officer Martinez explained to the class. "These skills might seem basic now, but they could save lives in real situations. Every sailor must master these fundamentals." As the weeks progressed, Sarah formed close bonds with her fellow recruits. The shared hardships of boot camp created friendships that would last throughout their naval careers. During rare moments of free time, the women would share stories about their families, their reasons for joining the Navy, and their hopes for the future. Jessica revealed that she had joined to honor her grandfather, who had served aboard a destroyer during World War II. Maria talked about wanting to use the GI Bill to become a nurse after her military service. Ashley simply wanted to travel and see the world beyond her small hometown in Georgia. Sarah's own motivation ran deeper than adventure or benefits. She genuinely believed in the Navy's mission to protect American interests around the globe. Her brother's stories had painted a picture of an organization where people from all backgrounds could come together for a common purpose, and she wanted to be part of that legacy. The training intensified as the weeks passed. The recruits learned basic firefighting techniques, practicing with actual hoses and foam systems in controlled environments. They studied damage control procedures, understanding how sailors aboard ships respond to emergencies at sea. The instruction emphasized teamwork and quick decision-making under pressure. In the fleet, your shipmates depend on you, Chief Williams reminded them during a damage control drill. There's no room for hesitation when lives are at stake. You must trust your training and trust each other. Sarah excelled in the damage control scenarios, demonstrating leadership qualities that didn't go unnoticed by the instructors. During one particular exercise involving simulated flooding, she quickly organized her team to set up pumps and shore up damaged bulkheads. Her calm demeanor and clear communication earned commendation from the evaluating petty officers. The uniform inspections became a weekly ritual that tested attention to detail. Every recruit had to present themselves in perfect military bearing, with uniforms pressed to exact specifications and shoes polished to a mirror shine. Sarah took pride in her appearance, understanding that military bearing reflected not just personal discipline, but respect for the institution she was joining. However, as Sarah progressed through the program, she began to notice subtle differences in how some instructors treated the female recruits compared to their male counterparts. While Chief Williams maintained fairness and professionalism, a few of the junior instructors seemed to harbor old-fashioned attitudes about women in the military. Petty Officer Richardson, a second-class petty officer with a reputation for being particularly demanding, often made comments about the female recruits that bordered on inappropriate. During one physical training session, he loudly questioned whether women had the strength necessary for certain naval ratings. "I don't know why they're letting so many women into combat roles these days," Richardson muttered to another instructor, apparently forgetting that his voice carried across the training area. "Some jobs just aren't meant for them." Sarah and her fellow recruits heard these comments but focused on proving their worth through performance rather than responding to negativity. They supported each other through the challenging moments, understanding that their success would speak louder than any argument. The weeks of training had transformed Sarah from an eager civilian into a disciplined sailor in training. Her physical fitness had improved dramatically, and she had mastered the academic requirements of boot camp. Her uniform fit perfectly, and she wore it with pride during formal inspections and ceremonies. As graduation approached, Sarah looked forward to receiving her permanent assignment and beginning the specialized training for her chosen rating. She had qualified for intelligence specialist, a field that would allow her to serve her country while utilizing her analytical skills and attention to detail. The camaraderie among the female recruits had grown stronger with each passing week. They had supported each other through homesickness, physical challenges, and moments of doubt. Sarah particularly appreciated the friendship of Maria, whose steady personality and sense of humor helped maintain morale during the most difficult training periods. "We've made it this far together," Maria said one evening as they prepared for lights out. "Whatever happens next, we'll always have this experience to remember." Sarah nodded, feeling grateful for the bonds she had formed and the person she had become through the crucible of military training. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt ready to face whatever the Navy had in store for her future. The incident happened during the 7th week of boot camp, just days before graduation. Sarah had been looking forward to this particular training evolution, which involved practical application of emergency procedures aboard a mock naval vessel. The exercise was designed to test everything the recruits had learned about damage control, firefighting, and emergency response. That morning started like any other. Sarah carefully dressed in her Navy working uniform, ensuring every detail met the exacting standards they had drilled into her over the past weeks. The light blue shirt was pressed with sharp creases, and her black boots gleamed with fresh polish. She checked her appearance in the mirror one final time before joining her division for morning formation. Chief Williams briefed the recruits on the day's training scenario during chow. They would be working in teams aboard the USS Traer, a land-based training ship that simulated conditions aboard an actual naval vessel. The exercise would include simulated fires, flooding scenarios, and medical emergencies that required coordinated responses from multiple teams. Today's training will push you harder than anything you've experienced so far, Chief Williams explained to the assembled recruits. You'll be evaluated not just on your individual performance, but on how well you work as a team under pressure. Remember everything you've learned, trust your training, and look out for your shipmates. Sarah felt excitement building as her team prepared for the first scenario. She had been designated as team leader for this evolution, a responsibility that reflected the confidence her instructors had developed in her abilities. Her team consisted of 5 other recruits, including Maria and Jessica, who had become her closest friends during boot camp. The first scenario involved a simulated electrical fire in the ship's engine room. Sarah's team had to respond quickly, establishing proper ventilation, isolating electrical systems, and deploying appropriate firefighting equipment. The exercise required precise coordination, as one mistake could result in the scenario spiraling out of control. "Rodriguez, secure the electrical panel," Sarah called out as they entered the simulated space. "Thompson, establish ventilation. Everyone else, prepare the CO2 system for deployment." Her team executed the procedures flawlessly, earning praise from the evaluating instructors. The confidence Sarah had built over weeks of training showed in her calm demeanor and clear decision-making under pressure. She felt proud of how far she and her teammates had come since those first uncertain days of boot camp. The morning progressed through several scenarios, each designed to test different aspects of their training. Sarah's team consistently performed well, demonstrating the teamwork and professionalism that the Navy demanded from its sailors. As they prepared for the afternoon's more complex exercises, Sarah felt confident that graduation was well within reach. However, during the lunch break, Petty Officer Richardson approached Sarah's team with what he claimed was a routine uniform inspection. Richardson had been particularly critical of the female recruits throughout their training, often finding fault where none existed. Sarah maintained her military bearing as he began his inspection, though she sensed trouble brewing. Richardson examined each recruit's uniform with exaggerated scrutiny, running his fingers along seams and checking for any minor imperfections. When he reached Sarah, his inspection became notably more aggressive. He pulled at her shirt, checking the alignment of her name tape and service ribbons with unnecessary force. "Martinez, your uniform looks sloppy," Richardson declared, though Sarah knew her appearance met all regulations. "These seams are uneven and your shirt doesn't fit properly." Sarah stood at attention, maintaining her composure despite the unfair criticism. "Petty Officer Richardson, I followed all uniform regulations as instructed, Petty Officer." Richardson's face reddened with apparent anger at what he perceived as insubordination. Without warning, he grabbed the fabric of Sarah's shirt at the shoulder seam and pulled hard. The sudden force caused the carefully sewn seam to separate, leaving a noticeable tear in the uniform that Sarah had worn with such pride. "Now it really doesn't fit," Richardson said with apparent satisfaction. "You'll need to get that fixed before you can continue training." The other recruits watched in shock as Sarah stood there with her damaged uniform. Maria's hands clenched into fists at her sides, while Jessica's face showed barely controlled anger at the blatant unfairness of the situation. The deliberately destructive act went far beyond any reasonable interpretation of uniform standards or military discipline. Sarah felt a mixture of humiliation and anger, but her weeks of training had taught her to maintain military bearing even in difficult situations. "Yes, Petty Officer Richardson," she replied, her voice steady despite the emotional turmoil she felt inside. However, the incident had not gone unobserved. Senior Chief Jackson, a Navy SEAL instructor who was visiting the training facility that day, had been watching the interaction from across the training area. Senior Chief Jackson commanded respect throughout the naval special warfare community, with multiple deployments and commendations that spoke to his exceptional service record. Senior Chief Jackson had been conducting an informal evaluation of the boot camp's training methods as part of a broader Navy initiative to improve recruit development. His 25 years of service had given him extensive experience in recognizing both effective leadership and the abuse of authority that occasionally plagued military training environments. As Richardson walked away from the damaged recruit, clearly pleased with his actions, Senior Chief Jackson approached Sarah's position. His presence immediately commanded attention from everyone in the area, as his reputation preceded him throughout the training facility. Even Richardson stopped his movement and stood at attention when he noticed the senior enlisted leader approaching. "What happened here?" Senior Chief Jackson asked in a calm but authoritative voice that carried across the training area. His question was directed at Sarah, but his eyes swept across all the witnesses to gather a complete understanding of the situation. Sarah maintained her military bearing as she explained the events that had led to her damaged uniform. She spoke in clear, factual terms, avoiding any emotional language or accusations, despite the obvious unfairness of what had occurred. Her professionalism in the face of adversity impressed the senior chief, who had seen many recruits crumble under far less pressure. "Petty Officer Richardson! Petty Officer Richardson!" Senior Chief Jackson called out, his voice carrying the unmistakable tone of command authority. "Please explain your actions regarding this recruit's uniform." Richardson approached nervously, clearly understanding that he was now answering to someone far senior to him in both rank and experience. His earlier swagger disappeared as he attempted to justify his actions to someone who had seen real combat and understood the difference between legitimate training and petty harassment. "Senior Chief, I was conducting a uniform inspection and found discrepancies that needed correction," Richardson began, his voice lacking conviction. "The recruit's uniform was not meeting standards." Senior Chief Jackson examined the torn fabric, noting the deliberate nature of the damage and the fresh appearance of the tear. His experienced eye could clearly distinguish between normal wear and tear and intentional destruction. The evidence of Richardson's actions was undeniable. "Petty Officer Richardson, in my 25 years of service, I have never seen a uniform inspection that required physically tearing a sailor's clothes," Senior Chief Jackson stated with controlled intensity. "Would you care to explain how this type of inspection serves any legitimate training purpose?" The challenge in the senior chief's voice was unmistakable, and Richardson found himself unable to provide any reasonable justification for his behavior. The other recruits watched silently as the confrontation unfolded, understanding that they were witnessing something significant in their military education. Senior Chief Jackson's intervention represented more than just correcting a single incident of poor leadership. His action demonstrated the Navy's commitment to professional standards and the protection of sailors from abuse of authority. The recruits present would remember this moment as an example of how true military leaders respond to injustice. "Recruit Martinez," Senior Chief Jackson addressed Sarah directly. "You will report to the uniform issue facility immediately to obtain a replacement uniform. This incident will not affect your training record or graduation status." Sarah felt a surge of relief and gratitude toward the senior chief, whose intervention had prevented the incident from derailing her military career. "Thank you, Senior Chief Jackson," she responded with genuine appreciation. The confrontation continued as Senior Chief Jackson addressed the broader issues raised by Richardson's behavior. His intervention would have consequences that extended far beyond this single incident, setting precedents for how such situations should be handled throughout the training command. Senior Chief Jackson's steely gaze remained fixed on Petty Officer Richardson as the weight of the situation settled over the training area. The other recruits maintained their positions, understanding that they were witnessing something unprecedented in their boot camp experience. The tension was palpable as two different philosophies of military leadership came into direct conflict. "Petty Officer Richardson, you will accompany me to the command office immediately," Senior Chief Jackson ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "We need to discuss your understanding of appropriate training methods." Richardson's face had gone pale as he realized the serious consequences his actions might bring. In the span of a few minutes, what he had probably viewed as a minor power play had escalated into a career-threatening situation. Senior Chief Jackson's reputation throughout the Navy meant that his assessment of the incident would carry significant weight with the command structure. As Richardson reluctantly followed the senior chief toward the administrative building, Senior Chief Jackson turned back to address Sarah and the other recruits who had witnessed the incident. His expression softened slightly as he recognized the impact the confrontation had on the young sailors in training. "Recruits, what you just witnessed represents a failure of leadership, not military standards," Senior Chief Jackson explained to the gathered group. "The United States Navy demands discipline, attention to detail, and respect for authority, but it does not tolerate the abuse of power or the deliberate harassment of service members." Sarah listened intently as the senior chief continued his impromptu lesson on military leadership. His words helped her understand that the treatment she had received was not representative of Navy values, despite coming from someone in a position of authority over her training. "Every one of you has earned the right to wear that uniform through your hard work and dedication," Senior Chief Jackson continued. "No one has the authority to destroy your property or undermine your dignity as a means of asserting their authority. True leadership inspires excellence through example, not through intimidation or harassment." The senior chief's words resonated deeply with Sarah and her fellow recruits. They had endured weeks of intensive training, physical challenges, and emotional stress to reach this point in their naval careers. The idea that someone would deliberately sabotage their progress for personal reasons was deeply troubling to them all. After Senior Chief Jackson departed with Richardson, Chief Williams approached the group to address the immediate practical concerns raised by the incident. Her expression showed a mixture of anger at Richardson's behavior and concern for her recruits' well-being. "Martinez, report to supply immediately to get a replacement uniform," Chief Williams instructed. "The rest of you prepare for the afternoon training evolution. This incident will not disrupt our schedule or your preparation for graduation." Sarah appreciated Chief Williams' matter-of-fact approach to handling the situation. The Chief Petty Officer had consistently demonstrated professional leadership throughout their training, treating all recruits fairly regardless of their background or gender. Her response to this crisis reinforced the positive example she had set from the beginning of boot camp. At the supply facility, Sarah encountered Petty Officer Davis, who had heard about the incident through the informal communication network that existed among the training staff. Davis expressed genuine concern about what had happened and assured Sarah that such behavior was not tolerated in the modern Navy. "Martinez, I want you to know that Richardson's actions don't represent the values of this command or the Navy as a whole," Petty Officer Davis said as he processed her uniform replacement. "You've been an exemplary recruit throughout your training, and this incident won't change that fact." The replacement uniform fit perfectly, and Sarah felt her confidence returning as she prepared to rejoin her division for the afternoon training evolution. The morning's incident had been unsettling, but the swift intervention of Senior Chief Jackson and the support of other instructors had restored her faith in the military justice system. When Sarah returned to the training area, she found her fellow recruits engaged in preparation for a complex damage control scenario. Maria and Jessica immediately surrounded her with expressions of concern and support, demonstrating the strong bonds that had formed among the female recruits during their shared experience. "Are you okay?" Maria asked with genuine concern. "What Richardson did was completely wrong and everyone knows it." Sarah nodded, feeling grateful for the support of her shipmates. "I'm fine. Senior Chief Jackson made sure everything was handled properly. We need to focus on finishing our training strong." The afternoon training evolution proceeded without incident, with Sarah's team continuing to demonstrate the exceptional performance that had characterized their progress throughout boot camp. The instructors evaluating their performance made no reference to the morning's incident, treating Sarah with the same professional respect they showed all the recruits. During the complex scenario involving multiple simultaneous emergencies, Sarah's leadership abilities shone particularly bright. She coordinated responses to simulated flooding, fire suppression, and medical evacuations with calm precision that impressed the evaluating officers. Her performance served as vindication of her worthiness to wear the Navy uniform. "Outstanding work, Martinez," commented Lieutenant Commander Hughes, the senior officer observing the training evolution. "Your team's response time and coordination were exemplary. You demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership the Navy needs in its junior sailors." The praise from such a senior officer meant a great deal to Sarah, especially coming so soon after the morning's unpleasant incident. It reinforced her understanding that her abilities and character were what truly mattered in her naval career, not the opinions of individuals like Richardson who failed to embody Navy values. As the day concluded, word spread throughout the training facility about the confrontation between Senior Chief Jackson and Petty Officer Richardson. The incident became a teaching moment for both recruits and instructors about the importance of maintaining professional standards and protecting service members from abuse of authority. That evening, Chief Williams gathered her division for the daily debrief session. She used the opportunity to address the broader lessons that could be learned from the day's events, helping her recruits understand their rights and responsibilities as they prepared to enter the Fleet Navy. "Today you witnessed both the best and worst of military leadership," Chief Williams explained to her attentive recruits. Senior Chief Jackson demonstrated how true leaders protect their subordinates and uphold standards of professionalism. Richardson showed what happens when personal biases override professional judgment. Sarah found the discussion particularly valuable, as it helped her process the emotional impact of the incident while learning important lessons about military culture. She realized that the Navy, like any large organization, contained individuals with varying levels of integrity and professionalism. In your naval careers, you will encounter leaders of all types, Chief Williams continued. Your success will depend on your ability to learn from the good examples while refusing to accept inappropriate treatment from those who fall short of Navy standards. The conversation continued as recruits asked questions about reporting procedures, chain of command protocols, and their rights under military law. Chief Williams provided comprehensive answers, ensuring that her sailors understood the protections available to them and the proper procedures for addressing problems they might encounter in the fleet. Later that evening, as the recruits prepared for lights out, Sarah reflected on the events of the day and their broader significance. The morning's incident had been disturbing and demoralizing, but the swift intervention of Senior Chief Jackson had demonstrated that the Navy's system of leadership and accountability could function effectively when needed. She thought about her brother's stories of military service and realized that his positive experiences had been shaped by leaders like Senior Chief Jackson and Chief Williams, who embodied the professionalism and integrity that defined the Navy at its best. Richardson's behavior represented an aberration from those standards, not the norm. Maria approached Sarah's rack as they prepared for sleep, offering final words of support and encouragement. "Tomorrow's our last full day of training," she said quietly. "After everything we've been through, including today, I know we're ready for whatever comes next." Sarah nodded in agreement, feeling a renewed sense of confidence about her future in the Navy. The incident had tested her resilience and commitment, but she had emerged stronger and more determined than ever to succeed in her chosen career path. The consequences of Senior Chief Jackson's intervention became apparent over the following days as word of Richardson's behavior reached the highest levels of the training command. Captain Morrison, the commanding officer of Naval Station Great Lakes, personally reviewed the incident report and immediately ordered a comprehensive investigation into Richardson's conduct during his tenure as an instructor. The investigation revealed a pattern of inappropriate behavior that extended beyond the incident involving Sarah. Several other female recruits came forward with accounts of similar harassment and unprofessional conduct that had previously gone unreported due to fear of retaliation. The scope of Richardson's misconduct shocked even experienced officers who thought they understood the challenges facing female service members. Captain Morrison convened a formal disciplinary hearing within 72 hours of the initial incident. Senior Chief Jackson testified about what he had witnessed, providing detailed and credible evidence of Richardson's actions. His testimony carried enormous weight due to his exemplary service record and reputation for integrity throughout the special warfare community. "Captain, what I observed was not training, discipline, or legitimate military instruction," Senior Chief Jackson stated during his testimony. "It was deliberate harassment designed to intimidate and humiliate a sailor who had consistently exceeded performance standards throughout her training." The hearing also included testimony from Chief Williams, who provided context about Sarah's exceptional performance during boot camp and confirmed that no legitimate uniform violations existed prior to Richardson's destructive inspection. Her professional assessment carried significant credibility due to her 15 years of experience in recruit training. Several other instructors testified about Richardson's pattern of inappropriate comments and behavior toward female recruits. The testimony painted a picture of an individual whose personal biases had corrupted his ability to fulfill his responsibilities as a military instructor and leader. The disciplinary hearing concluded with Richardson receiving a formal letter of reprimand, reduction in rank from second class to third class petty officer, and immediate removal from instructor duties. Additionally, he was transferred from the training command and required to complete sensitivity training before being eligible for future leadership positions. Captain Morrison used the incident as an opportunity to reinforce standards throughout the entire training command. He issued updated guidance on appropriate instructor conduct and established new reporting procedures for recruits who experienced harassment or discrimination during their training. The United States Navy has zero tolerance for behavior that undermines the dignity, safety, or career prospects of any sailor, Captain Morrison announced during a command-wide meeting. Every service member, regardless of gender, race, or background, deserves to be treated with the respect and professionalism that our uniforms represent. Meanwhile, Sarah continued her final week of boot camp with renewed focus and determination. The support she had received from Senior Chief Jackson, Chief Williams, and her fellow recruits had strengthened her resolve to succeed in her naval career. The incident with Richardson, rather than derailing her progress, had actually reinforced her understanding of the importance of standing up for Navy values. Her performance during the final training evolutions continued to exceed standards. During the culminating event, a comprehensive exercise that tested all aspects of their boot camp training, Sarah's leadership and technical skills earned recognition from multiple instructors. Her ability to remain focused and professional despite the recent harassment demonstrated the personal character that would serve her well throughout her naval career. Martinez has consistently demonstrated the leadership potential and technical competence that the Navy needs in its junior enlisted ranks, wrote Lieutenant Commander Hughes in Sarah's final evaluation. Her performance during challenging circumstances shows exceptional maturity and commitment to Navy values. The graduation ceremony took place on a crisp Friday morning, with family members traveling from across the country to witness their sailors transition from recruits to fleet sailors. Sarah's parents and brother made the journey from Texas, their pride evident as they watched her march in formation with her fellow graduates. Senior Chief Jackson attended the graduation ceremony, taking time to speak personally with Sarah and her family about her exceptional performance during boot camp. His presence at the ceremony demonstrated the continuing interest that senior leadership took in ensuring that outstanding sailors received appropriate recognition for their achievements. Your daughter has the character and competence to succeed at the highest levels of naval service, Senior Chief Jackson told Sarah's parents. The way she handled herself during a difficult situation showed maturity beyond her years and commitment to the values that make our Navy strong. Sarah's brother, now a senior petty officer himself, expressed particular pride in how she had navigated the challenges of boot camp. His own military experience gave him insight into the significance of earning the respect and support of senior enlisted leaders like Senior Chief Jackson. "You handled that situation exactly right," he told Sarah privately after the ceremony. "Standing up for yourself while maintaining military bearing and professionalism, that's what separates good sailors from great ones." The graduation ceremony included the traditional presentation of Navy ball caps to the new sailors, symbolizing their transition from recruit status to full membership in the naval service. As Sarah received her cap from Chief Williams, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment and belonging that had been tested but not broken by recent events. Following graduation, Sarah reported to Naval Technical Training Center, Corey Station in Pensacola, Florida, for specialized training as an intelligence specialist. The advanced technical training would prepare her for assignments involving critical national security missions, building upon the foundation of military bearing and professionalism established during boot camp. Her reputation from boot camp preceded her to Pensacola, where instructors had been briefed about her exceptional performance and the circumstances surrounding the Richardson incident. Rather than viewing her as a troublemaker, the training staff recognized her as an example of how properly trained sailors should respond to inappropriate leadership. The Intelligence Specialist School challenged Sarah intellectually in ways that boot camp had not, requiring her to master complex analytical techniques and classified information handling procedures. Her attention to detail and ability to work under pressure, qualities that had been tested during the uniform incident, served her well in this demanding academic environment. During her time at Pensacola, Sarah maintained correspondence with several of her boot camp shipmates, including Maria and Jessica, who were attending their own specialized schools at different bases. Their shared experience during recruit training had created bonds that would last throughout their naval careers. Maria was training as a hospital corpsman at Naval Medical Training Center San Antonio, while Jessica was learning aviation electronics technician skills at Naval Air Technical Training Center, Pensacola. Despite their different career paths, they continued to support each other as they navigated the challenges of their advanced military education. 6 months after graduation from boot camp, Sarah received word that Senior Chief Jackson had personally recommended her for early advancement consideration based on her performance during training and her response to challenging circumstances. The recommendation would accelerate her promotion timeline and open doors to leadership opportunities earlier in her career. The recommendation letter specifically cited her exceptional military bearing, technical competence, and mature response to adversity as evidence of her potential for increased responsibility. Such early recognition from a senior enlisted leader of Senior Chief Jackson's stature was virtually unprecedented for a junior sailor. Sarah completed her intelligence specialist training with honors, earning assignment to a forward-deployed unit that would utilize her analytical skills in direct support of fleet operations. The assignment represented exactly the type of meaningful service she had envisioned when first walking into that recruitment office in San Antonio. As she prepared for her first fleet assignment, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. The incident with Richardson had been a difficult test of her character and commitment, but it had also introduced her to leaders like Senior Chief Jackson, who embodied the best traditions of naval service. The experience had taught her valuable lessons about military leadership, the importance of standing up for what is right, and the power of institutional systems to correct problems when properly engaged. These lessons would serve her well as she began her career as a fleet sailor and future leader in the United States Navy. Years later, after successful deployments and continued advancement in rank, Sarah would often think about that pivotal moment when Senior Chief Jackson intervened to protect her dignity and career prospects. His example of principled leadership continued to influence her own approach to leading sailors, ensuring that the cycle of professional mentorship and protection of subordinates would continue into the next generation of naval service. The incident that could have ended her military dreams had instead become a defining moment that strengthened her character and deepened her commitment to upholding the highest standards of naval service. Sarah's story became an example throughout the training command of how the Navy's values of honor, courage, and commitment could triumph over individual prejudice and abuse of authority.